Welcome, everybody, to Somewhere in Vegas here on our new home, Spreaker.com. I'm Mark VQ. I'm your host. We have two really rocking guests that are on today. Coming up later, we'll be talking to guitar virtuoso Brady Novotny. We'll be talking a little bit about his music and his guitar style. But first, my guest has a really kick-ass band coming out of Toronto, Canada. They are really working it really well across the world right now. They have several top hit singles right now across the United States, Canada, and down in, of all places, New Zealand. They are working on new material right now. They've been touring pretty much this past year up in Canada. Drop Top Alibi is their name of the band. Brandon is on, the lead singer of Drop Top Alibi is on with us right now. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm well, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, you know, just to be able to see all the people that you've worked with in terms of being in the studio and to be able to put out all these great songs and this great record. I mean, how's it been for you to kind of be in studio and kind of work on these songs and really kind of work with some more experienced talent?
Yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate. We've come to meet some people over the years, and the 6 degrees of separation have just put us in the right place at the right time. You know, an old manager of ours knew Gilby from back in the day, and some phone calls get made, and, you know, people like the songs, and one thing leads to another, and sometimes you get lucky and you get to meet with people and work with them. And it's been, I mean, the amount of stuff you can learn from people like that, and, you know, what it's been able to do for our songwriting and our creative process has been really remarkable. And, you know, we're very lucky, and it's been a hell of a ride so far for sure, working with those kinds of people.
Well, speaking of which, have you just being in the studio and having to, have that experience behind, producers and the engineers that you've worked with in the studio, I mean, have you learned a lot in terms of when you first hit the studio to what you are doing now?
Oh, for sure. I mean, yes, you learn a lot about what the process is like. You learn that nobody is the same. Everybody works a little bit differently, but you essentially are kind of all trying to achieve the same thing. You learn about what good workflow looks like. You learn about what not so good workflow looks like. And then also just, tips and tricks, mic placement, stuff like that. And also, a guy like Gilby Clarke or a guy like Michael Hansen, guys who used to tour quite extensively and have been playing for 30-plus years and had massive success. You learn how to play your instruments a little better. I remember I was playing the rhythm guitar tracks for a single we did with Gilby, Holding the Gun, and he's like, hey, dude, you gotta, your fingers are too close to the fret line. Like, you gotta move them more to the middle of the fret. It'll help tune them better. It's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't think about that. Lo and behold, that's how I play all my chords now, and it does make a huge difference. And just little tips and tricks that, you're only going to learn those things from veterans of the trade. That's been what the huge difference for us has been. And those little things, it's translated to our live show. It's translated to our tone chasing sessions and how we actually sound. And it's really helped set us apart from a lot of bands who are kind of in and around our level and our stature right now.
Yeah, I mean, interesting you do say that. I mean, obviously a studio environment's a lot different than a live kind of venue that you've worked. I mean, you're getting a lot more fun reaction to it. You can improv a little bit more, I think, on stage, from time to time. Obviously, in a studio setting, you kind of work things and kind of, tweak things, and get back and get that second try as well. I mean, how is it for you to kind of make that transition over from, being a live band starting out and then finally just making it into the studio? And, how's it been for you to kind of, you mentioned, some of the tweaks that you had to do on that as well, but, was it a little bit jarring for you to be in the studio for the first time, knowing that you've done a lot in front of an audience?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. It's a little bit different, it is, and those little differences, they're excruciatingly painful sometimes when you hear them back, and we've been, Dylan and I have been playing together for almost 10 years now, the lead guitar player, and when we first got into the studio at all with, the other bands we were in at the time, we were just kids, and, it was, okay, this is all weird, this is all strange, and, okay, hopefully we're good enough to do this, and, we kind of got through it, we got away with it, we got lucky, and then you learn more and more little things along the way, and you learn that you have to think about certain things like, if your guitar's in tune but the chord's out of tune, then, well, you need to tune to that one chord. Otherwise, this part's going to sound awful. So, and just kind of knowing where to stop and start, where you have to make certain adjustments, and where you have to try to make things work cohesively. Yeah, you can get away with a lot live. Sometimes when you're in the studio, you really have to nickel and dime it and go bar by bar if you're running into especially like technical difficulties like with intonation and stuff like that.
Speaking of, venues, obviously you've worked some probably smaller clubs versus, some of the bigger stages as well. I know you went on tour with some big bands. I mean, is there a preference that you've found that do you like the smaller clubs venues better than the big stadiums, or is there a difference to you?
Honestly, I mean, a room with 100 people crammed in it, losing their minds, sweat dripping off the ceilings. Not a whole lot beats that, and even a band like Guns N' Roses kicking off their reunion tour, they played 2 nights, at the Roxy or at the Whiskey, something like that. Like, there's just nothing that beats a high energy small club environment. But man, let me tell you, if you're on a festival stage opening for a bigger band and there's 5,000 or 6,000 people or even more than that there, and they're into it, that's a whole other ball game. But it's a little less personal too, I like the personality of it. I like being able to look people in the eye and, how's it going, see the sweat dripping off their face if they're having a good time. But hey, it's also cool to be on the bigger and better stages with better sound and the flashier lights, and they're both cool. And for right now, I think I'm just happy doing all of it. And, hopefully 10 years from now, I'm lucky enough to be able to answer that question for real.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, you were kind of on tour all summer, and yeah, I think, are you taking a break right now?
Well, we just released a new single, and we kind of completed part 1 of our tour run, and we're gearing up to pretty much play all the way through November, up in Canada, through Ontario, and back out to Montreal and whatnot. And we're opening up to some bigger bands like The Wild and Rebel Few, and we're kind of going right up into the Christmas season, holiday season, where we'll definitely hunker down to start game planning for next year and what our next round of tunes coming out are going to look like.
Well, hopefully you can get down here to Vegas. I mean, the Count has a really good rock venue down here as well, Vamp, a really cool venue for rockers, so maybe that might be something you consider.
For sure, man. We're actually looking to come down to Los Angeles and see Gilby again next year, so we're looking to do as much of the West Coast as we can, that's for sure.
Well, so only help skipping a jump, maybe a couple-hour drive out to there, so yeah, you may have to check out and see if Vamp has any openings. I think it would be a really cool club for you guys to be at. The Toronto scene has been very interesting in terms of, and the Canadian scene in general has been really interesting in terms of rock bands. We've seen so many rock bands up there have so much success down here in the United States. I mean, how's the scene for you out there, and having started out in the scene, how was it for you to be able to get gigs, to be able to have an accepting audience?
Well, I mean, when we first started out as kids, there were ways to do it, but it was, pay-to-play bullshit, sell a bunch of tickets, and, we'll give you a better time slot. But, it got us kids playing, and the people who stuck with it, they got better. Eventually, you convince a promoter or a nightclub owner to let you in if you're, only 18 or whatever, and, our drinking age here is 19, so we started playing some of the clubs in Toronto when we were 17, 18, and we were lucky enough to make really, really good relationships with the owners of a few places, so we have never had a hard time playing in the city. But overall, what's the scene like? I mean, it's 33 million people in all of Canada, so it's small. There's, once you're outside of kind of the major hub cities like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, sometimes it's a little bit slim picking, and you got to know where to go. You got to know where college towns are. You got to know where the blue collar, get paid Thursday, turn up Friday night towns are, and you can have the best show of your life, or you can have 3 people there, and it could be the middle of July, and that doesn't matter. It's a little bit of a crapshoot, but it's a small enough world that if you turn the right heads and you don't piss anybody off, then things can start moving along for you pretty quickly.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, when did you start learning guitar and start learning singing?
Oh, geez. Let's see. I'm going to be 27 soon, and I probably started learning guitar when I was 13. I played piano for a bit before that, and I think pretty much right after, whenever School of Rock came out, within a year of that movie coming out, I was like, yay, I want to get the lead out. Give me a guitar. Like, I want to do this. This is awesome. And that's kind of when that started. And then, I was kind of the kid that, music teachers and, of course, mom and dad and whatever, they're like, hey, you're actually, like, you're not, like, you don't suck when you sing, and everyone else is too shy to sing. Why don't you do it? And I was, kind of, boys don't sing. That's, girly, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, by the time I was in high school, I had to kind of be in certain bands and ensembles to get the credits that I was trying to get as a music student. And I realized, I don't suck at this, and I actually enjoy it. So let's give it a go. So basically, by the time I was 15, 16, I was really trying to see what my voice could become, and it's been about 10 years, and I'm pretty happy with what we've done so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing to grow and seeing where we can take this thing, because it's a lot of fun to do, that's for sure.
I love talking a little bit about, the processes in terms of songwriting and music writing. I mean, what's your kind of process? Is it a situation where sometimes is it most of the time that you find a tune and then you write the lyrics, and find a tune, or is it kind of 50-50?
Well, it's interesting because Dylan and I, we've been together for a long time, but until about a year and a half ago, we had quite the revolving door of members. People, we're all at that age where some people go to school, some people get married, some people have a kid, and some people just aren't curious enough, and and during that time, I did a lot of the writing, and it was a lot of, like, full songs I was writing. But as we got closer and closer to dialing in what the 4-piece lineup is now, it's become a lot more evenly distributed. I usually start with some sort of a vocal hook and some parts, maybe the main riff or whatever, but I'm quicker to bring things to rehearsal and for input these days than I was back then, and a lot of that has to do with now I've had the same guys around me for a year and a half now. Everyone's comfortable with each other, and we're all open to each other's ideas and respect them. And we've decided to split everything evenly and do things evenly, and nobody's benefiting more than the other person, so that kind of creates an incentive to involve everybody. And, without sounding negative, pass the buck a little bit, but it's all for more like expansion rather than laziness, if that makes any sense,
I mean, so many bands in the past have, had arguments. Even legendary, the Beatles have had arguments about what songs needed to go on, or what kind of tone of songs that needed to be on a certain record, or whatever. And input seems to be the biggest thing. I mean, to have the other band members have some input into what songs, or they have an idea that they put into a song as well. I mean, there's just so many famous stories about that. I mean, even in the Queen biopic, they talk a little bit about that, where people were giving some input into certain songs or certain things as well. I mean, it's great to be able to see that in that kind of I would almost say it's teamwork in terms of having to write a song.
For sure, and you know what? And in some of those situations too, like in you take the Beatles for example. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure those guys, it wasn't necessarily an even split. So you kind of sometimes you deal with guys start getting pissed off if you're not using their riffs or their songs or their ideas because they're not going to get paid again. And when you're in an environment, there's a great Canadian band. Unfortunately, their lead singer passed away a couple years ago. They were called the Tragically Hip. And they split everything evenly, even though Gord Downey, the front man, did a lot of the writing, vast majority of it. And his biggest thing was just, look, this thing isn't going to work 20 years from now if I'm in a Benz and everyone's driving a Pinto. And you don't get anybody trying to force creative ideas because they're getting their paycheck either way. It doesn't matter whose idea gets used. It doesn't matter, And so when you start thinking about longevity and sustainability and how, if we're going to ride this wave and we're lucky enough that this is our income for the rest of our lives, how is this going to stay fresh? How is everyone going to, have their share? No one gets left in the cold. And ultimately, the art doesn't suffer because nobody's got ulterior motives. There are no reason to have any, And that's kind of why we took the approach we did. And honestly, I think I'm a pretty decent songwriter, but I would much rather have the input of those three guys as well. I mean, I respect them enough that I want to play with them. Why the hell wouldn't I let them kind of share their take on it too, right? And I just, some guys think like that, some guys don't, but I'm glad that I do because I got a hell of a band around me, that's for sure.
One of the questions I love to ask our, musicians that come on the show is,